This podcast is powered by Royal Adjusting. If you're a new, aspiring, or veteran property adjuster, head over to royaladjustingservices.com and join their roster for work opportunities. Hey, IAs, and welcome to the new Adjuster Talk podcast by IA Path. I'm your co-host, Chris Stanley, and I'm joined by the founder of this podcast and my co-host, Jason Heenan. And each week, we bring a panel together and talk about the big questions and topics that you as an independent adjuster face when you're getting started or trying to grow your business and career. And now today, we're going to talk about how much you can make in your first year as an independent adjuster. And our guest panelist today is Brad Fancher, the auto and heavy equipment instructor at IA Path. So Jason, Brad, thank you guys so much for being here. Brad's been our guest on the last two episodes as well. So glad you're coming back and we didn't scare you off. I'm excited for this topic, guys. I'm not going to lie. This, I think, is going to be really fun. And so the icebreaker we're going to start with, each episode we have an icebreaker and a main topic. And the icebreaker is to Jason first. How much did you make in your first year as an IA?
Hey, Chris, thank you for that great introduction. It is such a pleasure and an honor to be on the relaunch of Adjuster Talk, and I really appreciate you taking the time to put these good questions. I think they're very valuable to the listener, and if you're thinking about making a change, this episode certainly is going to have some usable information. All right, Chris, so what's my uncle's name? Hank?
First, before we get to the topic, before we get to your Uncle Hank, let's dive into the icebreaker of what did you personally make your first year? And then we'll get to what you tell a family member if they were coming in, now that you know what you know after XYZ years.
Okay. All right. Excellent. All right. Well, keep in mind, as I'm saying this, and it's not a lot of money, but keep in mind, this is in 2005. We're dialing the clock back to pre-camera phones. We're dialing the clock back to paper files. The 35 millimeter cameras were just about fully taken out of the industry. But $96,000 was what I did my first year work. But keep in mind, it was an exceptional, not exceptional like for a decade, exceptional for a century, the hurricane year we had in 2005. So the answer is $96,000 before expenses and such.
Wow. And so the 2005 was that big of a banner year. And but as a new guy, you really broke in big there. So can you break that down a little bit into how you earned it? Was it a fee schedule? Was it a per day? How many files were closed? Or what was kind of the way that you earned that? Was it all one deployment?
Okay. All right. Well, here we go. So there would be the first 7 or 8 months of that year were spent being a staff adjuster, just like anybody else who has a day job. I was in there actually doing auto liability claims, and then trying to get the property guys to spend some time with me during lunch and that type of stuff to go over, your standard house claim or a residential claim. So I had a very modest salary, of course, a very modest work week. It was 37 and a half hours, and they paid $40,000. Okay. So my very first year, I had made between 25 and 35,000 up to that point, and then Katrina and Rita hit, and from there was an original batch of 70 claims. I think I made about 25,000 there, so now we're up to about 50, and then the rest of that year was day rate, where I was spent cleaning up other adjusters' messes, putting out fires, working supplements, just whatever they needed me to do. So I had about approximately 4 months total on day rate. And it was between 10 and 12,000. I'm not quite certain. I'd have to look at I don't even have records that go back that far, but it was an exceptional first year. And still to this day, if I'm a $96,000, it's a lot of money, but if you're going out to buy a house, you're going to need to get started probably with 2 years, something like that.
Gotcha. Good. I think that qualification helps people understand because a lot of it came in at the very end of the year. It was all kind of batched right at the end, with the hurricane. So, Brad, now over to you. We're going to hit you up with what was your income the first year as an IA? And I know a lot of overlap sometimes happens, like Jason had some overlap where he was an adjuster to that. So however you want to tackle that, Brad, feel free if you have that kind of overlap to tackle it. But what was your first year's income as an IA?
All right. So I looked this morning. I went all the way back to the early years, three and a half years ago, early years. Of course, I
had to get in the way back machine with Jason, did you? And go all the way back. Not quite back to 2005, though.
Yeah. I think that was iPhone 8, maybe, or a 9. So, but remember, if we go all back to the first episode, I came in part-time. I didn't take the plunge and just started out. I think my first year I was only on with 3 firms, maybe 4. There was one company that focuses on hail, and we had a hailstorm that year. So part-time, not full-time, 3 firms, let's say. I brought in right at 36,000. Again, that's part-time. It's definitely changed since then. Doing this is all I do pretty much. Well, it's not all I do. I just do this full time for sure. So.
Awesome. So that was primarily, if I'm going off of memory here, but I want to make sure the listener knows, that was primarily per claim, right? Per claim, auto claim. Is that right?
What's that? Well, 36,000 a year.
Yep.
It was just auto and light truck. It was not heavy equipment.
That was per claim though. That's how the breakdown would be, is per claim.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure for the listeners so they can kind of get an idea of like, okay, well, how did he make it? How'd that come in? Was that 300 days working at $100 a day, or what was the money like, and where it come from? Okay, cool. So how much roughly would you say how many claims were there that made that up?
Well, obviously I started out, just, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 at first, dailies, and then now, and then it quick. Well, gosh, back then, again, I remember just thinking, having personal goals, just thinking I was, hot stuff, so to speak, doing 12 to 15. So, that's about average between, and I know it's a wide gap, about 10 to 15 the first year. And again, nothing. And the firms I was working with, they were taking a chance on me, and I was making, beginner rates, and rightfully so, So again, some of those.
So I did the math here. If it was roughly $60 a file, roughly, because I know there's probably mileage or whatever. We're talking 500 to 600 claims here that Brad did his first year, roughly. And then also I want to bring in, we have an additional guest on this episode. Tinecia Johnson is jumping in, so we're going to catch her up to speed and get a little bit of her story here as well. So I'm going to admit her right now. And so what we are talking about, TJ, as you're jumping on, is how much you made your first year as an IA. And we've had Brad share his story. Jason has shared his story. But now I'm going to put you right on the spotlight. We're in the icebreaker question of episode 3. How much did you make your first year as an IA? Can you hear me, TJ?
I can. Oh, that was a question for me?
That was for you. I'm putting you right on the spot right away in your finals jersey.
Okay.
There. Go for it.
Yeah.
First year as an IA, what'd you make?
My first year would have been 2017, and I made about 70,000.
And how did you make that 70,000? What kind of work was that? Was it per day rate? Was it per claim? Kind of how to break out?
No, it was an inside total loss CAT assignment.
Approximately how many days you think you worked that year to earn that? Do I need to do a math on my phone real quick?
Let's see. I worked from April to October.
If you're making around $400, it's 175 days.
Okay.
Is that roughly around what you made, $400 a day ish?
That was so long ago. I have so many zeros on the back of my checks these days. I don't even. Those were my very,
so
very
many
humble
zeros.
beginnings.
Jason, she's giving you a run for your money here. So many zeros on the back of the checks. Oh, that's awesome. Now, real quick, just to bring everybody up to speed, TJ is another IA Path instructor. She handles our liability. So Jason knows all about auto liability. That's how he got his start in the industry. And so she has been in desk assignment roles, staff and independent. And that's her area of expertise, is helping people navigate all that craziness that I can't even imagine, like workers' comp, liability, bodily injury, and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and tackle the question before we get to the main topic here. And the question being, how much did I make my first year? The first year, I was coming out of Walmart distribution. I was working there throughout the process of handling claims. And I ended up making around $30,000 my first year working part-time auto damage claims. So similar to kind of Brad, I was working a full-time job and kind of sidestepped into this, working 3-4 days a week doing daily auto claims. Ended up making around 30, and I was like, man, my warehouse job just paid me less than that. And I was killing myself over there trying to get every hour I could. If I left that, I think I can more than make up what I'm doing with those extra days and focus. And so that was what I did my first year, was about 30, but that was my clue that, like, light bulb, I can do this and I can make more than what I made doing both of them and enjoy my life a whole lot better. So that was kind of my journey as well. And now, because TJ is right here in the hot seat, we're going to put her right into the fire with the topic of this conversation about what an IA can make in their first year. But TJ, I don't want you just to spout off some number. I want you to think about it like this. Your family member, let's call him Hank. Uncle Hank comes up to TJ and says, TJ, I saw all them zeros on the back of your check. I like them zeros. I want my own zeros. How much am I going to make my first year? What are you telling your family member that they're going to make their first year?
I'm not telling them anything. And this is why. The market is a lot different from when I first started as an IA in 2017. There are a lot of changes that have been made. The market, the insurance market, as far as jobs, where jobs are concerned, isn't the same either. So it's twofold. One, I typically don't disclose what I make to avoid conversations like these, to be honest with you. And two, because I've been doing it for so long, that's very difficult for me to ask that question. I try to stay away from the economic questions of what I can make. I started out as an adjuster 15 years ago. I became an IA 5 years ago. So a lot has changed from 15 years ago, even 5 years ago. If we take it back even in a much shorter term, during COVID, just 2 years ago, right? A lot of the market has changed. So I stay away from those questions. I stay away from the financial questions.
So what are you telling Hank? He's sitting there. What are you going to tell him, though? If you're not going to tell him a number, what are you going to tell him?
If you need a job, apply. Just no, seriously, when it comes to, and that's the number one question that I get, especially as the insurance expert, as the instructor, that's the very first question that I'm asked. Well, how much can I make? Now, what I make is not going to be the same as what someone else makes that's super new. And to be honest with you, probably within the last couple of years, I'm a little out of touch as far as what newer adjusters make. I have to be honest about that. I'm out of touch. I know what I make. I know what my dollar value is. I know what that looks like based on my resume. But for a brand new adjuster, the spectrum is super wide. I've seen numbers as low as $22 an hour. And this is either staff or IA, believe it or not, for brand new IAs. And then it depends on if you're doing auto, liability, total loss, BI. It just really depends on the discipline. So the more complex disciplines, like your liability, commercial type claims, workers' comp, those typically are the ones that pay more than $40 an hour at the absolute least. The bottom number is $40 an hour, but that also commiserates with experience as well. So depending on what your goal is, you told us about a year or two ago, $100,000, six figures is a bad goal to have. And that didn't click for me until January. That did not click for me until then.
Yes, it takes a little bit. All right. Thanks, TJ. Jason, to you now. We're going to come to you and we're going to ask you the same question. Hank comes to you and he's like, buys you a beer, whatever Hank does, right? Gives you a pie, whatever it is. Says, Jason, I love what you do. I want to do it. What am I going to make the first year, though?
All right, Chris. I guess there's some established information before I make some promises to Uncle Hank that I'm not sure I can keep. Uncle Hank better have some good training and he better have his equipment ready. We see, I'm not going to say our failure rate's high because we don't hire a ton of new people. We do like new people if they're hungry. I'll take a person who's been studying and really going after it hard and really wants it over someone who's been doing it 15 years and their first conversation is, let me see your fee schedule. And then they're going to send out a bunch of, caveats. We don't have time for those. So I'd rather take a young, hungry person who wants to go get it than an older adjuster. So opportunities are very much there, and especially right now with some of the changes going on. So if Uncle Hank has adequate training, if Uncle Hank is a professional human being, if all the criteria is there, the recipe for success is there, here's some numbers for you, okay? The desk adjusters right now, what we're calling remote adjusters, and under the current claims environment, there's not a lot of new people getting hired for remote desk adjusting, basically approving files and making sure they're ready for the insurance company process. They're paying $35 an hour for that. And that doesn't mean that a month from now, a hurricane doesn't hit the coast and there's a ton of positions like that. So Uncle Hank, you can make $35 an hour in your pajamas at home. And then on a per claim basis. So this is how I figured out Uncle Hank's situation. He wants to get his IA business started. He doesn't want to travel all over the place because there's 2 or 3 things keeping him home, a house payment. He has a kid in school, whatever his situation is where he needs to stay home. So he's actually building a business from the ground up at his home territory, and suggesting, one, that he has found somebody to accept his claims, okay, or accept his business and send him claims and this is what I tell people. If you have all of those situations taken care of, and that is how everyone should be whenever they start, that's how it should start. I tell Uncle Hank that he would have to be in a coma to make less than $1,500 a week full-time working claims if he has someone who trusts him. And that's not
Good
hard.
one.
1,500. I think that 1,500 you could probably do pretty easy as far as inspecting, and that goes for heavy equipment, commercial, residential, auto, liability. Pretty easy.
Right. The hard part is getting that initial person to say, yes, I will send you work. That is the super big qualifier there that you got to figure out. Now, Brad, over to you. I'm going to send it to you and say, Uncle Hank, your dad, whoever it is, comes knocking on your door, says, Brad, I helped you out before. Now I need you to help me out. I want to become an IA. How much can I make?
Yeah. Man, it's amazing how many people do find out what you're doing and want to, they haven't bought me a full meal yet. So, well, great answers from both TJ and Jason. And I mean, I'm going to kind of follow the same line. Jason put a number to it, which is definitely obtainable, even in the auto side. Of course, you add heavy equipment or, heavy trucks, and then it goes somewhere else on another level for, even so. But I mean, a lot of it has to do with your work ethic. Are you willing to, embrace the process? Again, we're launching a business. We're not starting a job. We're launching a company. And, I don't know of anyone that's launched a successful, lasting company that doesn't know about sacrifice, sleepless nights. Even right now, I'm not getting my 8 hours, and again, you're an independent. So I would just, one of my first questions or to Mr. Uncle Hank would be, how much are you willing to invest? Not just monetarily, but time. Are you willing to even embrace the process of learning? Can you handle a revision, or what some firms call a flat out rejection? You think you've done a perfect job, and then boom, you left out one line item. Are you willing to see that first year all as, we said at IA Path, your first year, it's about practice and process before profits. Just get in the frame of mind, I'm going to make enough to survive, and anything above that is just, gravy. Thank you. But the first year, man, you're learning. Maybe the first 2 years, you're just
it's
learning.
On the job training in essence.
Exactly. I looked at it as, man, they're paying me to learn. That's what's exciting. And, so every mistake I made, I still got the little black book now. I'm writing down a note. I remember one of the first biggest mistakes I made. Maybe we'll talk about it later, but I learned a ton on that revision, that rejection. I never made that mistake. I've never made that mistake again, but I didn't let it go to my core. My heart, I let it go to my head and learn from it. But what Jason said, $1,000 to $1,500, if you're not making that, then, something needs to be adjusted. And I don't know if that's you, or, you need to get on with more firms. It's where you live in the nation. And, so there's quite a few variables there.
Awesome. Good answers. And I like what you said there about maybe you need to diagnose what's going on, and it could be myriad of factors, a lot of different things there that could be happening. And so for me, when I try to talk with people, because as TJ was saying, this is, and everyone seems to be implying, this is the number one question people ask me. Yep. And I sit there, and my job at IA Path is to be a career guide and to help people make these career decisions and figure out what's the right path for them to go and give them advice. And so unfortunately, I can't deflect Uncle Hank because it's literally my job to tell Uncle Hank what to expect. But what I have found is that if you look on Google, insurance adjusters on average make about $68,000 a year. That's staff, that's body shop estimators, that's even people who are writing estimates for construction companies. They kind of get all lumped into adjuster. But that's also independent being calculated in there. But when you say, well, what about just being an independent? Typically, an average person, this is across all years and spectrums, is going to make about $80,000 a year working full time. Now you have those like TJ who got all the zeros, and those like Jason Heenan who are just kicking butt and taking names and doing things. You got those who are working part-time, making 35 because they want to be home with their kid every day at 2, and everything in between. But for Hank in the first year, I would say, Hank, if you can get started, you do what we tell you to do to get work, to contact the right companies. I would say plan on 40 to 50 if you're getting steady work. And then anything above that is good. But you should go make 40 to 50. If you're not on track to make that, you've got to go get more work. You've got to become a salesperson and go get that, because that is the one thing that nobody can do for you is go sell yourself to other people. We can make introductions. Jason can pass you off to a friend of his. Jason could even give you work as Royal Adjusting. But if he doesn't have work in your area, it doesn't matter. You've got to go get more work for yourself. And so in our industry, you control that valve. It may feel like you don't, But if you focus on not chasing weather unless the opportunity arises, and you focus on just getting business, that's how you control your income and dial it into where you want it to be. So Hank, 40 to 50, that's what you should make. If you're not, you're doing something wrong. You need to dial that in and go get some more work. All right, guys, any closing thoughts? We got 2 minutes before we got to shut this episode down. Any final thoughts? Jump in, free reign.
TJ, I think you're awesome, and we need more lady adjusters in the industry, just because of how great it seems like ladies are compared to men as far as attention to detail and counterpointing some just bad arguments from contractors or body shops. It just seems like ladies are able to keep it more professional and just be more patient. I don't know why that is. I'm sure it's something I haven't thought of. But TJ, I think it is great to have another lady adjuster and just say thank you to our lady adjusters that work for us. I think they're great.
Any final thoughts? Anything else? Oh, she's muted. TJ's muted. You can't mute TJ because she's got something to say. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Guess you can't talk. Go, TJ.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. So Jason, I really appreciate you recognizing that women do have a significant impact within the industry, which is why I'm definitely blessed to be in a position that I am, so that other women can see that you can be successful in this industry. And plus we have that magic touch of negotiations to kind of get things our way. So, you know,
I would never, ever want to be in negotiation against TJ. I sat in her liability class, and no, I'm not negotiating with TJ. But seriously, TJ does have that attention to detail, and I think a lot of other women do, and I do think it's super valuable. And so TJ is kind of ramping up to, help more people get started in the industry, men and women. But let's face it, she's gonna deliver on what she promises. That she can do that. That's her thing. I can do that.
I can do that.
TJ, glad you're able to show up on this episode. We're going to wrap this one up. And thank you guys for listening and watching wherever you are paying attention to the Adjuster Talk podcast. Until next episode, keep walking your path and claiming your life. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you spend time on social media, and leave a review on iTunes. That would mean the world to myself, to Jason, and our panelists. Let us know what panelists you enjoy and that you got something out of. Till next week, keep walking your path.